Welcome back to Afternoon Live. Our next guest was a pastor for over 30 years and even started the Living Hope Church across the river in Vancouver. He was also arrested at the Mexican border for attempting to smuggle drugs into the country. That is only part of his story, and he shares it all in his new book, The Church of Living Dangerously. We welcome to Afternoon Live, John Lee Bishop. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Hannah. It's great to be here.
Congratulations on your book.
Thank you. I got this for you.
Oh, thank you so much. This is very exciting. I think a lot of our viewers might recognize you.
Maybe, yeah.
From your many years preaching in Vancouver.
Yep. I started Living Hope in 96.
Okay.
And so, yeah, with a little team of people, and we had no idea it was going to become the church it became.
It grew pretty quickly, right?
It did.
It must have been pretty overwhelming at times.
It was. We were, banks wouldn't loan us money. They called it catastrophic growth. I guess there's an actual banking term, because we were growing, so fast, and at one point, and moving different locations. Went from one location, and we were at the mall, which I loved, and then we ended up at the Kmart, and then I ended up not there.
Right.
But now I'm here.
Now you're here.
Right.
Much has happened in that time frame.
A lot's happened.
Let's go back to the beginning.
Sure.
You grew up in this area, and you had a tough childhood.
I did. I grew up with, my dad died when I was 4, and his name was David Lee, so I named my son David after him, and my daughter Katie Lee after him, and my daughter Hannah as well. And I just, I grew up, and I was kind of like my grandparents raised me. We ended up then with a stepdad that was super physically abusive.
Yeah.
And not being a victim, I really believe that our past hurts will make us bitter, or they'll make us better.
Right.
And I chose to be better.
Yeah.
And to grow from things. But yeah, it was kind of tough. And I had uncles that were all, they're tough guys.
Yeah.
The bishop blood, they say, and in the book. And so I ended up in a few different fights and those kinds of things.
Well, and you end up meeting your lovely wife, who kind of brought you into the world of church that you hadn't experienced before.
Had never in my mind remembered going to a church, even like a funeral or anything like that, So I met Michelle when I was 16 years old. She skipped school to be with her sister at Hudson Bay.
Okay.
And I was singing Jim Croce, Time in a Bottle.
Wow.
As a solo. And I saw her, and it was like, that was it.
Yeah.
I knew that we were going to be married, and through all of the thick and thin, she's really the hero of the story. Michelle stayed with me, 41
and you
years.
brought that experience from your past when you became the leader of this congregation, that you could connect with people who were, as you said, unchurched. They didn't have the experience like that.
We were kind of like the church for the rest of us.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was just, because when I finally came to Christ, I thought to myself, I have to be a part or start a church where people like me would feel comfortable, accepted, no matter what they did in the past.
How do we fast forward from beginning this gigantic growing church to getting arrested at the border? I mean, it's just incredible, all these things that transpired.
Well, to fast forward it, I, in 2015, started making some bad choices, and I ended up, my wife and I had a house for a period of time in Cabo San Lucas. So I was down there, and there was no church for English-speaking people, and there was no ministry in the barrios. And what really got me was, in the hotels that are multiple billions of dollars, you drive a mile and a half, and these barrios are where all the beautiful Mexican people work, and they're the waiters, and they're the bartenders, and they're the taxi drivers, and they're the ones for $15 a day with dirt floors. So that got my heart, and this little girl ended up dying stepping on electrical wire, no shoes. And so I came back, and on one Sunday I said, why don't we challenge ourselves to walk to our cars without our shoes? And people did. We had 3,000 pairs of shoes. It grew to about 4,000 pairs of shoes. And I felt compelled to get it down, to get those shoes to the people. And little did I know that used clothing, shoes, it's considered contraband, right? So I couldn't, so we had to get it slowly across. Anyway, long story short, we got it down there. But in the process, I started drinking and was unfaithful to my wife, which is one of the biggest things I regret and will till the day I die. And I told her while I was in federal prison that we were worth the wait.
Yeah.
And I'd spend the rest of my life proving to her that we were worth the wait. And I plan to do that. And she reminds me of that, though, too, all the time. I mean, just,
she's not going to forget that one.
No, she's not. But we, so then when I got back, I justifiably lost my job and then didn't know what to do, didn't know where to turn. In my 50s, having only pastored, those best years, 30 to 50 something of my life. And so I ended up connecting with some very dangerous people.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another. I tried timeshares. I tried different things.
Yeah.
And nothing really stuck, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So then somebody asked me, well, why don't you traffic? Of course, they don't use the word traffic.
No, of
it
course
sounds
not.
so Sicario-ish.
Yeah.
But they say, hey, you could just bring some marijuana across the border.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's kind of almost like a medicinal trip.
Sure.
Why not? So it's California, it was legal, and so I did. And not proud of it.
Yeah. But
I also was the stupidest criminal you could ever meet because I didn't know,
Right.
And ended up when I finally got arrested that I wouldn't, of course, talk about anything or anyone.
Right.
And that I had a mandatory minimum sentence because of the amount of weight in the federals.
Yeah.
So I had a 5-year sentence and spent close to 4 of the 5 years.
How did you end up back in town here after all that?
Well, my family lives here.
Yeah.
And I try to go around, if there's a 205 and then I-5 goes right through Vancouver, if there was another road that went way around it, I would have taken it.
Yeah.
Because, there's that shame and guilt. And, guilt is what we've done, but shame is who we become.
Yeah.
We label ourselves, and I did that. And so I hurt a lot of people. And I can't, for the rest of my life, ever take back the pain,
Right.
I didn't lead by example. And when I came back, I'm a veteran, so I was at the VA hospital. And it was in 2023, we were coming with the family to go camping in Prineville, Oregon. And in the process, when we came back, I ended up going from the VA, just going to be vulnerable and honest. I was struggling with, alcohol abuse and needed to detox.
Yeah.
And I ended up at Salmon Creek Medical, and of course, our church was so big that it's hard to go anywhere without someone
Of course, yeah.
knowing. And you never know, do you like me or not, But I ended up, when I got out of detox and out of the hospital, I got a message from a spiritual father, has been, Ron Webb. And he asked me about going to lunch and about maybe preaching at what used to be called the Lord's Gym. That's what people know. When I was a kid, it was Uncle Milt's Pizza.
Okay.
But the Lord's Gym, and then it's New Life Friends Church.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, no. I said, Hannah, I'm never going to preach again.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely not going to be in Vancouver.
Right.
And just God was like, oh, really? You think so?
Yeah.
Okay. And I end up going to lunch, because pastors will always go to free lunches.
Yes.
And then they said, why don't you come down and take a look at it? And while I was sitting in the church, I looked around and there was people playing basketball, and I realized that they were doing things for the community. So where we're at is in the most crime in all of Vancouver, and probably the most poverty, but also the most opportunity.
Right.
And so they were serving, and we still serve hot meals to students and open the gym for about 50 or 60 kids every day.
That's so important.
And we're serving, I think, close to about 1,000 hot meals every month.
That's wonderful.
And
John, we could talk for hours. Your
Yeah, I know.
story is so
Sorry.
fascinating. It's all in the book, so people should really pick it
Yeah.
up and read it. And I want to mention, are we making a movie out of this?
Yes.
Look at you. That's Christian Bale.
That's Christian Bale.
No way.
Yes.
Is this happening?
Yep.
Okay.
It's happening.
Well, We can't wait. The book is here. Thank you for stopping by. Really fascinating stuff. I appreciate your
Thank you very much.
vulnerability. It's hard to talk about. Okay, we want to let viewers know that John has an author talk this Sunday at 6 p.m. It is at New Life Church on Grand Boulevard in Vancouver. The book, again, is The Church of Living Dangerously. It comes out next week, but it is available for pre-order right now. We'll have more information, including how you can register for the author talk on Sunday, all on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.